Chapter 435, Divine Ancestor of Ming Hall. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. The Sword Sanctum, Jade Saint Divine Mountain. The white-haired woman, who was seated in the most central seat above the holy temple, took up the position of the master and had a powerful and mighty power. And the owner of the Sword Sanctum, Jade Saint, stood instead. "Lu Huiyan, is your news really true?" "Where is he?" said the white-haired woman. This woman had actually dared to say the name of a saint. She really was exceptional. Jade Saint was not displeased at all, saying, "How could a junior dare to deceive a divine ancestor? This man is now in East Region Saint City. Not long ago, he passed the assessment of Saint Academy. I believe that in the near future, he will enter school and officially become a saint of Saint Academy." "Is he really called Zhang Yuochen?" In the calm eyes of the white-haired woman, there was a bit of an unclear expression that seemed to care about this matter. Jade Saint said, "Yes. In fact, he is famous in the Eastern region. He is one of the 6 young kings of the new generation in the Eastern region because he inherited Buddhist tempera. Divine Ancestor, do you want to meet him now?" "Meet him?" The white-haired woman meditated for a long time, as she seemed to be remembering something. After a long while, she said, "Please wait." When she was informed of Zhang Yuochen's news, she really desperately wanted to see him. However, when she actually arrived in the Eastern region, she was still somewhat guilty. If it was him, it was naturally a great, happy event. But, if it was not him? The white-haired woman sat there, motionless, like a statue of a goddess. Jade Saint waited at her side, looking patient. Without knowing how long had passed, she seemed to be thinking clearly. The shadow of that person in her mind faded as she asked, "Where is the life sword? Was the repair completed?" "It is also at the divine altar. The grandfather personally repaired it." But Jade Saint said. The 2 eyebrows of the white-haired woman lifted slightly and she said, "But what?" Jade Saint sighed and said, "After all, the life sword has been broken and it is not an easy task to repair it. It requires a lot of precious materials for forging. Several kinds of materials cannot be found, even in the Holy Land." The white-haired woman said, "Tell me what is lacking to repair the life sword, and I will certainly be able to help you find it." "This sword is crucial and must be repaired successfully." Jade Saint nodded and smiled. "If the divine ancestor can help grandfather, it will not be difficult to repair the sword." "This is Lu Yuanzai's meaning?" The white-haired woman said. "Grandfather is dead, after all. Now, there is only one divine soul left. Even though it is through the power of the divine altar, it is always unable to do as well as we would wish." The white-haired woman said, "Well, I haven't seen Lu Yuanzai for a long time. Just go to see him." She had made up her mind to complete the restoration of the holy sword and then meet Zhang Yuochen, confirming whether he was the same person from 800 years ago, the one who made her dream for 800 years. Because 800 years seemed to be very long, and very short as well. As long as one closed their eyes, what they once had experienced would be still vivid in their mind and never fade due to the passage of time, but instead, would make them feel more painful. "My cousin, to get revenge for you has always been the biggest driving force of my practice. When I recall the scene of you dying under Kai Yao's sword, I get very sad. After 800 years, did you really come back?" In the corner of the white-haired woman's eyes hung 2 lines of tears, and her heart was very remorseful. If she had been a little faster, she could have stopped Kai Yao and rescued him that year. Unfortunately, it was worse. In the end, she could only watch Zhang Yuochen fall into a pool of blood, dying, and eventually became a cold corpse. Kai Yao carried a bloody sword and went away. At that time, she was no match for Kai Yao and could not even catch up with her. Since then, she had practiced hard to become strong. She only wanted to get revenge for Zhang Yuochen, which lasted 800 years. 800 years later, she still was unable to kill Kai Yao. Her hatred, jealousy, and deep thoughts were deeper in her heart. "If people die, they can't regenerate. Why should we mention the past again?" With a long sigh, the white-haired woman stood up and walked out of the holy temple. Under the guidance of Jade Saint, she walked toward the divine altar. Zhang Yuochen spent half a month in the internal space of the time and space spinal, refining over 1.6 kilograms of purple cloud-patterned eaglewood, and finally, his body reached saturation. Practicing the treasured bodies of double spirits is really much more difficult than practicing a single treasure body. It takes half a month, but it can only be refined into 1.6 kilograms. As the body was saturated, it could continue to refine the purple cloud patterned eaglewood until it broke out of the realm. Of course, refining 1.6 kilograms of the purple cloud patterned eaglewood was comparable to Zhang Yuochen practicing for 3 years. The cultivation was once again promoted to reach the peak of the medium state of the heaven realm. There is still half a month before Saint Academy starts. Before that, I have to buy a mansion in East Region Saint City to house my mother. Although Zhang Yuochen could live in Saint Academy, concubine Lin, Blackie, Han Zhu, Kong Zhuan, and the monster ape only lived outside. The management of East Region Saint City was quite strict. All foreign workers had to apply for a temporary residence certificate or they would be expelled. Zhang Yuochen, like the students who came to East Region Saint City, only had a 3-month validity period for temporary residence certificates. And once they expired, they had to leave. Only by buying a mansion in East Region Saint City could one obtain permanent residency. Of course, the residences in East Region Saint City were all incredibly expensive, especially in the 7th district. Even the worst one cost 10 million spiritual spinels. Such a large amount was enough to make the superiors in the fish dragon realm flinch. As far as the warriors in the heaven realm were concerned, being able to have 1 million spiritual spinels was already quite rich. There were only just over 2 million spiritual spinels in Zhang Yuochen's body, so trying to get 10 million spiritual spinels was not an easy task. Are you going to sell the spatial ring? When this idea just emerged, Zhang Yuochen immediately shook his head. Now, the only person who knew that Zhang Yuochen could control space was Blood Spirit Queen. As long as Zhang Yuochen did not sell the spatial ring, even if Blood Spirit Queen told others that Zhang Yuochen could control space, no one would believe her. Once he went to sell the spatial ring, Blood Spirit Queen would surely spread some rumors. By then, it was estimated that even the imperial court of the First Central Empire would be alarmed and be quite unfavorable toward Zhang Yuochen. Thinking of this gave Zhang Yuochen a big headache. Blood Spirit Queen was like an irritant stuck to his throat. If he did not kill her, she would pierce Zhang Yuochen's throat at any time, leaving Zhang Yuochen unrepentant. Now that the spatial ring cannot be sold, then sell the black glazed spinel. For such a spirit treasure, as long as it is taken out, those saints of the powerful families will certainly pay a high price to buy it. Of course, it can't be sold to the enemy. It can be sold to Saint Luo Gentry and the East Region Saint Mansions. The black glazed spinel can be used not only to practice the treasured body of the water spirit, but it's also a treasure of forging. The sword sanctum should also be used. With that being the case, he went to the sword sanctum and asked them if they finished repairing the life sword.